Deep inside the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the roads simply stop. Not slow down, not narrow into gravel and give up eventually. They disappear entirely, swallowed by green, and the river takes over everything that follows. Nearly 2/3 of this country lies beneath forest canopy, part of the Congo Basin, the second largest tropical rainforest left on Earth. Beyond Kinshasa, boats replace buses, villages gather quietly along waterways, and families build entire lives around fish, cassava, timber, rain, and distance measured not in miles, but in how many days a river will let you travel. The forest here is not scenery. It is a highway, a market, a food source, a workplace, a memory, carried forward across generations who never once needed to write any of it down. But living this deep inside Africa's green heart comes at a real cost. When roads fail, medicine arrives late. When rivers rise without warning, families must choose in that exact moment whether to travel, to wait, to trade, or simply to endure whatever the delay costs them. How do people out here stay connected to one another? How do they protect any kind of future for their children? And why, after everything this land demands of them, do they still call it home? From above, the Democratic Republic of the Congo looks almost endless. A canopy of green stretches across the entire center of the African continent, broken only by broad rivers, narrow tributaries, and small settlements, gathered wherever the water allows them to be. This single country holds the largest share of the Congo Basin rainforest found within any one nation's borders. This is the DRC, often shortened that way to separate it from its smaller neighbor, the Republic of the Congo, sitting just across the river to the west. Its scale is genuinely difficult to grasp from the ground. Roads reach only part of the country. Dense forest, seasonal rain, and enormous unbroken distances keep communities separated from one another in ways that most of the outside world rarely has to think about. At the western edge of all this sits Kinshasa, rising beside the Congo River itself. Ferries cross a current that never really slows down. Workers unload sacks from wooden boats, one after another, without pause. Vendors wait along a crowded riverfront for whoever steps off next. The capital moves through traffic, construction, commerce, and noise, much like any other large city on the continent. And yet, the same river, flowing past all of that noise, leads somewhere entirely different. Beyond Kinshasa, concrete buildings slowly give way to smaller towns, riverside farms, and long, unbroken walls of forest. Boats carry passengers alongside baskets of produce, containers of fuel, livestock, and building materials, moving between settlements that have no other way to reach each other. Some travelers leave before sunrise and stay on the water for hours, sometimes days, stopping only when goods must be exchanged or a family needs to be reunited on the other end. The Congo River is more than simply a line drawn through the middle of a country on a map. It is a road in a place where roads do not exist, a source of fish, a marketplace, a connection holding together communities that the forest itself keeps apart. Along its banks, people repair canoes by hand, wash clothes in the shallows, prepare fishing nets, load cassava onto waiting boats, and wait, sometimes for hours, for the next vessel to finally arrive. Farther inland, small clusters of homes appear between the trees, or beside narrow waterways that most maps don't even bother naming. Their location is rarely an accident. Water means transportation. It means food. It means access to whatever neighboring village might have what your own does not. The forest supplies material for homes and farmland to grow food on, but it also limits movement in ways that shape every single decision a family makes. Every journey here depends on weather, on distance, on the current condition of whichever river you happen to need. Across this entire rainforest, daily life is built directly around those unavoidable realities. Families work, trade, travel, and raise their children in places that remain genuinely difficult to reach from the outside world. The real question worth sitting with isn't simply what exists inside the Congo Basin. It's how people manage to build a functioning life within a landscape this vast, this humid, and this demanding, generation after generation, without ever expecting it to get easier. If you're ready for this journey, Drop a comment right now telling me exactly where in the world you're watching this from. Hit the like button, subscribe to Legends TV, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story we bring you from the far, forgotten corners of this planet. Because what comes next? The river cities, the fishermen who read rapids like a language, the families who measure hope in solar panels and phone signal, is unlike anything we've shown you before. Let's go. At the meeting point where the Congo and Ruki rivers converge, Mbandaka rises out of the forest as a city built entirely around water. Its streets, its neighborhoods, its markets all remain closely tied to the riverbanks, where boats arrive constantly from settlements scattered across the wider central basin. Unlike Kinshasa, this city doesn't stand apart from the rainforest surrounding it. It functions instead as one of its main gateways. Along the landing areas, wooden boats press up against the shore, while narrow dugout canoes slip between the larger vessels. Crews pull sacks of cassava onto the bank, carry bunches of plantains balanced over their shoulders, and unload baskets of fish beside blackened bags of charcoal. Passengers step carefully across narrow wooden planks, carrying bundles, children, and cooking pots, often occupying the same crowded space as the cargo itself. Boat operators check their ropes, their fuel, their worn wooden boards before the next departure. Nearby, fishermen sort through their catch, while women arrange small quantities of food and household goods for sale along the riverbank. Children move freely between the water and the surrounding homes, watching boats arrive from places they may only ever know by name, never having traveled there themselves. The riverfront here isn't simply a port. Clothes are washed in the shallows, containers are filled with water for the day ahead. Damaged hulls are pulled up onto the bank for repair, and a carpenter shapes replacement planks entirely by hand, the same way it's likely always been done. Traders wait beneath simple shelters, listening for the sound of an approaching engine, or the call announcing fresh cargo has finally arrived. Goods from the forest villages move through Mbandaka before entering wider commercial networks beyond it. Cassava, bananas, fish, and charcoal are collected from riverside communities and sold onward from here. The flow moves in the opposite direction too. Salt, soap, medicine, tools, and farming supplies are loaded back into boats and carried out towards settlements with little to no road access of their own. Every single arrival connects two different worlds. The city depends on the labor and produce coming out of the forest, while remote communities depend on Mbandaka for goods they simply cannot make themselves. Commerce, family visits, medical needs, and plain daily survival, all of it follows the same waterways. Beyond the city, houses become fewer and the riverbanks grow quieter. Boats continue upstream, past smaller landings and narrower channels, carrying people deeper into places where streets disappear entirely. Travel slows, and the rainforest itself begins to shape nearly every single hour of the day. Before sunrise, a village beneath the dense canopy of the Yangambi forest landscape begins to stir. A cooking fire is lit beside the house. Tools are gathered for whatever the day will require. Children wake, not to an alarm, but to the sound of insects, birds, and water moving somewhere nearby. There is no traffic here to mark the start of the morning. The forest itself sets the rhythm, and everyone simply follows it. Homes are built from whatever materials are locally available, with walls and roofs constructed to withstand heavy rain and constant, unrelenting humidity. Floors, storage areas, and food supplies all require regular attention, especially once moisture inevitably settles into wood, into soil, into thatch. Much of the day unfolds outdoors, where air moves more freely, and work can be shared between relatives and neighbors as daylight strengthens overhead. Have you ever lived somewhere that the weather itself decided your entire day for you, long before you had any say in it? I think that single idea, more than almost anything else, is what makes life here so different from how most of us plan our own mornings. Women and children carry containers to collect water for the household. Cassava, corn, or whatever other ingredients are available get pounded and prepared close to the family compound. Adults check the fields, gather their tools, and quietly decide which tasks need to happen first that day. Some head toward plots planted with corn, rice, peanuts, and other food crops. Others prepare fishing equipment or work with materials taken directly from the surrounding forest. Across the village, labor is divided, but it's rarely isolated. Farmers clear land, plant, weed, and inspect their crops. Roofs get repaired before the next rain arrives. Worn tools are sharpened. Wood is selected carefully for whatever practical use it's needed for next. Boat builders shape timber into vessels that will eventually carry people, food, and supplies along the nearby waterways. Children move between schoolwork and family responsibilities during the hours outside class. They help carry small loads. They watch over younger siblings. They assist with simple household tasks without needing to be asked twice. Care here doesn't rest with one parent alone. Older children, grandparents, and nearby relatives all take part in raising every child in the village, not just their own. By late afternoon, produce returns from the fields, and fish is cleaned near the water's edge. Smoke rises from outdoor cooking fires as the evening meal is prepared. Neighbors pause what they're doing to exchange news, compare the day's work, or share whatever has been brought home that day. As darkness closes in, families gather around food that pass through many different hands to reach the table. The forest provides land, water, wood, and fish, but it also demands constant repair, careful planning, and a level of cooperation that most of us rarely have to practice in our own daily lives. Life here continues through that exact balance, shaped equally by the work of a single household and the wider family surrounding it. Along the river, the forest closes in around the water in layers, evergreen canopy above, swamp below, shadowed ground beneath it all. This is part of the Ituri Forest and the wider Okapi Wildlife Reserve, a landscape where the Mbuti and Efe peoples have maintained deep, unbroken relationships with this land across countless generations. The forest here is not separate from daily life. It is where food is gathered, where materials are found, where medicine is identified, and where memory itself is carried forward, one generation passing it to the next without ever needing to write it down. Knowledge moves through families by observation and by practice. Adults recognize animal tracks pressed into wet soil. They notice changes in wind and cloud that would mean nothing to an outsider. They follow subtle signs that reveal water, useful plants, or a safe direction through growth so dense it can swallow a person whole within a few steps. Children learn simply by walking beside older relatives, watching closely how leaves are examined, how paths are remembered without a single map, how the sounds of the forest itself are interpreted like a second language. Much of this knowledge is practical, but it carries cultural weight too. Stories connect families to specific places along the river, and deeper still into the Ituri Forest. Music and conversation pass through evening gatherings, while older relatives explain relationships, responsibilities, and the ways people are simply expected to care for one another out here. Identity is preserved through repeated acts, not through formal lessons written down in a book. These communities are not entirely cut off from the outside world either. Trade links them to nearby towns, where forest products can be exchanged and manufactured goods brought back in return. Roads create new forms of access. Phones and other modern tools become part of daily communication wherever they happen to be available. But change also brings pressure. Resource extraction, expanding transport routes, and conservation rules all affect where people can travel, gather, hunt, or build a livelihood for their own family. The Okapi Wildlife Reserve protects genuinely important forest ecosystems, but the communities living around it must also adapt to restrictions placed on activities that have connected them to this land for generations. That adjustment is rarely simple. Families balance inherited knowledge against changing regulations, new markets, and the practical needs of modern life, often all at once. And yet the forest remains central, not as some isolated wilderness to be admired from a distance, but as a living system of paths, relationships, skills, and memory. A culture survives here because it is used. It moves through hands, through footsteps, through stories, through the daily decisions carried forward by people who continue to understand the forest as both home and teacher. At Boyoma Falls, The Congo River breaks into powerful channels of fast-moving water near Kisangani. Along these currents, members of the Enya community, widely known as the Wagenia, maintain a fishing tradition built entirely around the river's force, rather than against it. Wooden structures rise directly above the rapids, anchored precisely where the flow runs strongest. Fishermen climb across narrow beams to inspect baskets and traps fixed above churning water. Each placement depends on a close reading of the current, on knowing exactly where fish move, where pressure shifts, and where the river can actually be approached without real danger. The work demands balance, timing, and constant repair. Ropes are tightened. Damaged poles are replaced. Worn sections of wood are reinforced before the next catch is even attempted. Once fish are pulled from the traps, the work continues on shore. Some are cleaned and prepared for immediate sale. Others are preserved or smoked to last longer through the heat. Carriers move the catch away from the falls, passing it along from the fishing structures to boats, to paths, to market stalls waiting at the riverside markets of Kisangani. Have you ever watched someone work with a skill so specific, so hard-won, that you knew instantly it could only have come from a lifetime spent doing exactly that one thing? I'd genuinely love to hear about a moment like that in the comments below, because I think the fishermen of Boyoma Falls carry that same quality in every single movement they make. Women arrange fish for customers arriving from nearby neighborhoods and from passing vessels. Fresh catch lies beside smoked fish, allowing traders to sell to city residents, as well as boat crews continuing further along the river. Every single basket connects several kinds of labor at once. The fishermen at Boyoma, those who repair the wooden structures, the people who transport the catch, the sellers who turn all of it into household income by the end of the day. Kisangani serves a wider purpose within the interior of the country. Forest products and food move toward the city, while tools, salt, soap, fuel, and other supplies travel back out toward the river communities that depend on them. People also arrive here from smaller settlements, searching for work, for education, for access to markets farther downstream. Mbandaka links the forest basin to trade routes closer to the west. Kisangani occupies a different position, deeper inside the country, where the river remains just as essential to both movement and survival. At Boyoma Falls, the economy begins with water. The river provides fish, transportation, and access, but only to those who understand its movement and who maintain the structures that make the work possible in the first place. Skill passes through practice here, nothing more, nothing less, and each day's catch becomes part of a larger system connecting the rapids, the market, and the communities living beyond both. Along the Lulaka River, the communities of this corridor build their meals around whatever the water, the forest, and the nearby fields can provide. Fishing begins early, before the heat fully settles over the river. Canoes move through narrow channels and flooded areas, carrying nets, baskets, and simple tools used to bring food home by midday. The catch is cleaned near the water, then divided according to a family's immediate need. Some fish are cooked fresh that same day. Others are smoked to preserve them for later use or for sale further downstream. In a region where travel can take days and refrigeration remains largely out of reach, preservation protects both food and income at the same time. Fields near the settlements supply cassava, plantains, and wherever growing conditions allow it, corn or rice as well. Cassava roots are peeled, processed, and pounded before being cooked into fufu, the firm starch served beside fish and sauces at nearly every meal. The leaves of the cassava plant are used too, pounded into cassava greens known locally as pondu, cooked slowly until they become a thick, savory dish that shows up at nearly every table along the corridor. Another preparation, liboke, brings the river and the forest together in a single meal. Fish is combined with seasoning, wrapped carefully in broad leaves, and cooked over heat until the flesh steams gently inside its own small parcel. Smoke from charcoal braziers and outdoor fires drifts quietly between homes as women prepare food, watch over children, and organize items for sale, often all within the same hour. Their work extends well beyond the cooking fire itself. Women carry fish and produce to local markets, negotiate prices directly, and manage a real portion of the money used for household needs. A successful catch might pay for soap, for salt, for school supplies, or for medicine. A poor one changes, immediately and without much room for negotiation, what the family can afford to buy that week. Meals here are rarely treated as private events. Relatives gather. Children eat beside older family members. Visitors are offered a share, even when food itself is limited. Portions may be divided more carefully on harder days, but the simple act of eating together remains important regardless. Isolation shapes every single ingredient that doesn't come directly from nearby land or water. Salt, cooking oil, medicine, and manufactured goods often arrive only by boat, and when river travel is delayed by weather, by fuel shortages, or by changing water conditions, supplies grow scarce and prices climb. Food here is never simply a recipe. It reflects the season, the river, days of labor, and a long, quiet chain of decisions that carries each ingredient from the water or the field all the way to the family meal. At the center of the Congo Basin, Salonga National Park spreads across a vast landscape of lowland rainforest, swamp forest, and dark rivers that divide the land into long, difficult corridors. It stands as Africa's largest protected tropical rainforest, and much of it can only be reached by water. Boats move slowly along its boundaries, carrying people, food, tools, and supplies between settlements separated entirely by forest. The park shelters bonobos, forest elephants, Congo peafowl, fish, and a long list of species that depend directly on these rivers and wetlands to survive. Their presence gives Salonga a kind of global importance, but wildlife here doesn't exist apart from the communities living around the forest's edge. Fields lie close to the park's boundaries. Fishing grounds stretch along its waterways. Families depend on nearby land for both food and income, and that relationship is both necessary and genuinely complicated. Animals can wander into cultivated areas and damage crops that took months of careful work to grow. Fishing supports entire households, while wood, plants, and other forest resources meet practical needs at the very same time. Conservation rules may limit where people can hunt, clear land, gather materials, or expand farms around a settlement like Monkoto. Those decisions are part of ordinary daily life here, not some abstract policy debate happening far away. A farmer has to consider where cultivation is actually permitted. A fishing family has to understand which waters can still be used and how a catch should be managed to last. Conservation stops being an abstract idea the moment it affects what food ends up on the table that night, or how far someone has to travel just to find new farmland. Newer forms of livelihood are attempting to ease some of that pressure. Managed fishing can protect breeding areas while still preserving income for the families who rely on it. More sustainable farming methods can improve production without pushing fields deeper into forest that can't easily be replaced. Community forests may give residents a greater role in managing their own local resources, while conservation and research work can create employment directly connected to protecting the very landscape people already call home. None of these solutions is simple. The forest remains a source of food, materials, identity, and security all at once. Yet it is also a protected ecosystem whose survival depends on real restraint from the very people who need it most. Salonga reveals, more clearly than almost anywhere else in this country, how closely human life and nature are tied together here. Protecting the forest requires understanding the needs of the communities living around it, just as the future of those communities depends entirely on the rivers, soils, and living systems the park itself was created to preserve. In Monkoto, every journey begins with a choice between difficult options. A dirt road might offer the shortest route toward the next town, but heavy rain can turn that same road into deep mud within an hour, and a weak or missing bridge can stop travel completely, without warning. The Lulaka River is often more dependable, though a boat trip toward Mbandaka can take several days, depending entirely on the vessel, the weather, and the current water level. Fuel is expensive here, and an engine failure can leave passengers waiting for hours, sometimes longer, far from the nearest repair. Families weigh the cost of a motorbike against the delay of a boat, over and over again. A trip that looks simple enough on a map becomes, in reality, a careful calculation involving rain, money, cargo, and time. One that has to be made fresh every single time someone needs to leave. Have you ever had to make a decision where every single option came with a real cost attached, and there was genuinely no easy choice hiding among them? I want to hear about that in the comments below, because I think a lot of what makes life in Monkoto so demanding is exactly that feeling, just repeated constantly, week after week, without much relief. The consequences become most serious when someone in the village needs medical care. A sick person may have to leave Monkoto by motorcycle or by boat, carrying medicine only if it happens to already be available locally. Supplies can arrive late, and distance often shapes which treatments are even possible in the first place. Traditional plant knowledge may help with familiar illnesses and everyday care, the kind passed down through generations of careful observation. But it cannot replace a clinic, a trained nurse, or modern medicine when a condition turns severe. Children face the same unforgiving geography just to reach school each morning. Some walk along rough, uneven paths. Others cross open water by canoe, alone or with an older sibling steering. Rain can interrupt attendance for days at a time, and classrooms may operate with limited books, limited equipment, sometimes no electricity at all. Even so, families continue to make that journey possible, day after day, viewing education as one of the few real paths toward a wider set of opportunities than the ones immediately available at home. Electricity itself remains uneven across the region. Small generators require fuel that isn't always easy to get. Modest solar panels and car batteries provide limited power for lights or for charging a phone. In some communities, several people gather around a single working charging point at once, waiting patiently for a weak signal strong enough to send one message or receive whatever news is waiting for them from somewhere else. Farmers face a different kind of uncertainty entirely. Cassava, plantains, fish, and other goods must reach buyers before they spoil or lose their value completely. When a road closes or a boat simply fails to arrive on time, a family may lose more than just a single day's work. They may lose the income needed for food, for school supplies, for medicine, all in the same missed trip. Around Monkoto, isolation isn't some abstract condition described in a report somewhere far away. It shows up in every delayed journey, every hastily repaired engine, every quiet decision to leave right now, or wait one more day for the river to cooperate. And yet, the rainforest here is no longer defined only by rivers, fields, and footpaths, the way it once was for so many generations before this one. Mobile phones now appear beside farming tools in the same household. Small solar panels sit above homes, quietly collecting power through the day. Boat engines shorten journeys that once depended entirely on paddles and the strength of someone's arms. Modern technology arrives here gradually, shaped constantly by distance, by cost, and by exactly what each individual community can realistically maintain over time. Around Yangambi and its neighboring villages, a charged phone can carry news all the way from Kisangani, or confirm that money has finally arrived from a relative living in the city. Mobile money allows families to transfer funds and make payments in places where conventional banks remain almost impossible to reach. Electricity is still limited, so phones are often charged from shared solar systems or from whichever household happens to have reliable power that week. Have you ever relied on a single shared resource, a phone, a car, a connection of some kind, that an entire group of people around you also depended on at the very same time? I'd love to hear about that in the comments below, because I think the quiet cooperation required by something as simple as a shared charging point says more about a community than almost anything else could. Agriculture is changing here too, slowly but noticeably. Community savings groups allow members to pool small amounts of money together, support one another through hard stretches, and invest jointly in seeds, livestock, or basic equipment nobody could afford entirely on their own. Farmers cultivate corn, rice, and peanuts, while some households raise animals on a small scale alongside their existing crops. These activities create genuinely new sources of income, without requiring anyone to leave village life behind entirely to get them. Yangambi also serves as an important center for research into forests, agriculture, climate, and conservation more broadly. Scientists here measure trees, study soil composition, and observe closely how the rainforest responds to environmental change happening around it. Local residents take part in nurseries, in tree planting, and in various forms of environmental monitoring, turning their own inherited knowledge of the landscape into paid work and genuine practical experience. Young people stand at the very center of this ongoing transition. Some want to remain in the villages, building stronger livelihoods through farming, trade, or conservation work, rooted in the land they already know intimately. Others look instead toward Kisangani, where education and employment may offer a different kind of future entirely. Their choices, made one at a time, connect the forest to the city a little more closely with each passing generation. Growth here brings genuinely difficult questions along with it. Families need income, and expanding agriculture may require more land than the forest can easily give up. At the same time, the forest itself supports the water, the soil, the wildlife, and the long-term security of every community living around it. Yangambi is not a place frozen somewhere outside modern life, waiting to be discovered. Change travels here too, through phone signals, motorized boats, savings groups, research stations, and newly planted fields. The real question, the one nobody here can fully answer yet, is whether those changes can improve daily life without slowly consuming the very forest that makes that life possible in the first place. By late afternoon, produce returns from the fields, and fish sits cleaned near the water's edge, waiting its turn. Farmers face a kind of uncertainty that rarely eases. Cassava, plantains, fish, and other goods all have to reach buyers before they spoil, or lose their value entirely. When a road closes, or a boat simply doesn't show up on time, a family doesn't just lose a day of work, they lose the income that would have covered food, school supplies, or medicine that same week. Across Monkoto, Mbandaka, Kisangani, and the smaller settlements scattered between them, home is defined by something larger than distance or geography alone. It's found in the people who remain close enough to share work, food, childcare, and responsibility with one another, day after day. Several generations often live within the same village, sometimes the same compound. And when one household faces illness, a failed harvest, or a delayed journey, relatives and neighbors simply step in without needing to be asked. In villages along the Lulaka corridor, families return each evening to fields they know season by season, sometimes generation by generation. Children move between parents, grandparents, and older siblings, learning where food is stored, when crops are ready, and which tasks must be finished before the next rain arrives. Work belongs to the household, but care, real care, belongs to the wider family surrounding it. Along the river near Monkoto, livelihood depends entirely on knowledge, built slowly over time. Fishermen read the water the way some of us read a familiar road. Farmers judge the soil by touch and instinct. Traders understand, almost without needing to check, when a boat is likely to arrive. In Mbandaka and Kisangani, those same skills connect rural communities to markets where fish, cassava, plantains, and charcoal are exchanged for salt, medicine, tools, and school supplies that simply can't be found any closer to home. Farther east in the Ituri, belonging is carried through language, through music, through stories, and through an intimate knowledge of the forest itself. Children learn by walking beside adults, listening closely to conversation, and observing how familiar paths, plants, and waterways are understood by the people who came before them. These lessons link the present directly to generations that lived across this exact same landscape, long before any of them were born. Material life may remain limited here, in ways that would feel genuinely difficult to most people watching this. But isolation does not always mean loneliness. A person here is surrounded by relatives, by neighbors, by shared obligations, and by places filled with memory in a way that's easy to overlook from the outside. A bend in the river may mark a fishing ground passed down for generations. A forest path may lead directly to family land, still farmed today. A village clearing may hold years of meals, celebrations, and quiet loss, all layered into the same small patch of ground. Hope here takes practical forms too. Families invest in education, in small farms, in solar power, in mobile communication, in community savings groups, and in new conservation work slowly taking shape around them. Young people weigh real opportunities in Kisangani or Mbandaka against the pull of staying closer to home, while others search quietly for ways to do both at once. By late afternoon, a boat returns to the village. Smoke rises above the rooftops. Children run along the riverbank, calling out to whoever has just arrived. And food is divided as the forest slowly darkens around them all. The Congo Rainforest may separate these communities from much of the outside world, but the river, the land, and the relationships built carefully around them are also exactly what keep people connected to home. If this journey through the Congo moved you the way it moved me while putting it together, take a moment and hit the like button, subscribe to Legends TV, and let me know in the comments which part of this story stayed with you the longest. The Wagenia fisherman reading the rapids at Boyoma, the shared charging point where a whole village waits for one signal, or the quiet cooperation that holds a family together when a boat simply doesn't arrive. Thank you for coming this far with me. We'll see you in the next story.